Is from Johnny Mercer.
Thank you very much. Good morning. Secretary of State, I was wondering if you could start by outlining, please, what is the UK's national interest in the Middle East and North Africa?
The Middle East and, to some extent, North Africa are fundamental to this country's security, its stability, and its prosperity. We rely on a series of partnerships in the region to help us manage threats from the region, crime, terrorism, and now the challenge of migration. But we also need to ensure that the energy supplies that we rely on are secure, that our trade routes are secure, and that is why we maintain in the region a credible and persistent defence presence. So this is a region that is extremely important to both our security and our economy.
Excellent, thank you. And we've done a lot of sort of travelling around, trying to understand what is the West's, or what is our collective strategy in terms of dealing with the challenges that come out of that part of the world at the moment. And we certainly found it in Washington. There's a real struggle to understand what is the strategy, what is the sort of holistic, bringing everyone with you type strategy that we're engaged in at the moment in that part of the world. I was wondering if you could outline what that might be and whether or not the whole of government is working towards that.
Well, the strategy is to help to stabilise the Middle East, where there is instability. The war in Syria has been raging for some 5 years now. The instability in Iraq goes back much further than that. It is to help stabilise the Middle East, which is one of the key regions of the world, and more recently to counter the global terrorist threat that Daesh presents, in which we all have an interest. And that's the basis on which we've assembled this extraordinary coalition of over 60 countries involved in one way or another in combating the Daesh and in helping to support the legitimate governments of Iraq and elsewhere. Because
we've heard from some like General Simon Mail and others that there doesn't seem to be this sort of all-embracing strategy that everyone is sort of bought into and wants to see. So what is the sort of end state? What are we looking at? What is the vision that we are selling, not only to the UK population for them to sort of get behind in terms of supporting military operations and so on, but for the theatre, for the area this is taking place? What is the end state? What might it possibly look like? What might success be conditioned as?
Yes, first, General Sir Simon Mayo was a key key advisor to us and to me in this work, and made a huge contribution in his period in office. And we work at this, in answer to your earlier question, we work at this across government. This is not simply the Ministry of Defence, it's the Foreign Office, it's DFID, it's Home Office where security is concerned. We work across government, and you see that captured in the most recent Strategic Defence and Security Review. The end state is a situation in the Middle East where these countries are stable again, where we can rely on the trade routes and the energy supplies and the partnerships that we need to keep this country safe, and in which elected and legitimate governments are able to provide a future for their people that does not involve them emigrating.
And just finally, if I may, what is the? I mean, that's the end state. That's very clear. How do we get there? What is the thinking around operations against so-called Daesh? How are we actually going after this threat? How are we actually stabilising these countries? People sort of buy into the fact that this is what we're trying to do, but how are we doing this, and how does what we're doing fit into that larger strategy, perhaps with the United States?
Well, so far as the campaign against Daesh is concerned, Daesh was probably at its peak in the summer of 2014, just before I arrived at the Ministry of Defence. And we're now well into this campaign to counter Daesh in Iraq, where considerable progress has been made now in pushing Daesh back west along the Euphrates and up north, up the Tigris, and in liberating towns and cities and territory that it formerly held. In Syria, the situation is obviously more complicated, but again, Daesh has come under some pressure from the Kurdish forces and the Syrian moderate opposition. And overall, I think in the coalition that we've mobilised, and you're right to refer to United States leadership, in which we and other countries are supporting the United States, the coalition overall, I think, is making progress. But that military strategy against the Daesh is only part of a much wider strategy, which includes communications work in dealing with the way in which the Daesh has been able to promote its ideology. That work is actually led by the United Kingdom, by the communications team in the Foreign Office, by work against Daesh's finances, and by work across the security agencies and departments to stem the flow of foreign fighters. So this is this is an effort, a multiple effort, right across the range.
Thank you very much.